The chandelier lights glimmered like scattered diamonds above the crowded restaurant, but nothing shone as brightly as the determination in Marissa Hale's eyes that afternoon. She had finally rebuilt her life, piece by painful piece, rising from heartbreak into success. Her twin boys, Rowan and Kit, held her hands as she walked them through the grand dining hall. Two little reminders of both her greatest joy and her greatest loss. She had brought them here for a quiet celebration, a simple lunch to honor her first year of freedom, the year she had learned to breathe again. But the moment she stepped inside, her heart slammed to a stop. Sitting alone at a table near the window, looking smaller and more defeated than she had ever seen him, was Adrian, her ex-husband, the man who once shattered her world. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Marissa had not seen Adrian in nearly 3 years. Back then, he was a brilliant architect, charismatic, and full of promise until his gambling addiction consumed him. Their marriage unraveled, money vanished, trust collapsed. She had left not out of anger, but out of survival. She had taken the twins, moved states, lived in a tiny room, and worked every job she could find until her determination and sharp business instincts finally pushed her into the world of real estate. She built her empire from scratch. Adrian, meanwhile, had disappeared into the shadows of his own mistakes. And now, by some cruel twist of fate, he was here. Marissa tried to steady her breathing as she guided the boys to their reserved table, but her eyes betrayed her and drifted back toward Adrian. He looked exhausted, wearing an old shirt, his hair untrimmed, his posture slumped. He wasn't eating, just staring at a half-empty glass of water. There was no anger in the sight, just a dull ache she thought she had buried long ago. Rowan tugged at her dress, asking why she suddenly seemed sad, but she forced a smile and told them nothing was wrong. She helped them into their seats, ordered their meals, and tried to focus on the moment she had promised them, a happy lunch. Yet her gaze kept returning to Adrian. Something in him felt different. He wasn't confident or towering like before. He looked broken. The twins giggled over their coloring sheets, unaware of the storm gathering inside their mother. As Marissa picked up her glass, she noticed something she hadn't expected. Adrian's hand trembled. At first, she thought it was nerves, but then she saw the way he winced. The way he pressed his palm stiffly against the table. It wasn't emotional, it was physical, and suddenly, she realized what she was witnessing. His hand, once strong and certain, was now trembling uncontrollably like someone fighting an invisible weight. Pain surged through her chest. She remembered the man he once was. How he held their newborn twins with such care, how he stayed up late drawing architectural sketches he proudly showed her. And though he had destroyed so much, he was still the father of her children. She couldn't look away anymore. Their food arrived, but Marissa could barely taste anything. Every time Adrian's hand shook, she flinched as if struck. Finally, she whispered to herself that she had rebuilt her life so she could live without fear, not so she could live without compassion. The words settled in her like truth she had been avoiding. She had survived him, yes, but she had never stopped wanting him to survive himself. It was then that Adrian rose from his table, perhaps to leave, or maybe because he couldn't bear sitting there anymore. But as he tried to stand, his unsteady hand slipped on the edge of the table, sending his glass tumbling to the floor. The sharp crack echoed across the restaurant as he stumbled, barely catching himself. People stared, some whispering, others shaking their heads with judgment. Marissa didn't think, she simply moved. She stood up, walked straight to him, and placed her hand gently on his arm. He looked up, startled, shame clouding his eyes. In that fragile second, time seemed to slow. The chandelier light softened. The world faded away until it was just the two of them, two people who had broken each other, yet once loved deeply. Without hesitation, Marissa guided Adrian back to his chair. She waved over a server, asked for a clean glass and water, and sat beside him. The restaurant watched in stunned silence. Her twins blinked curiously from across the room, unsure what was happening. Adrian tried to speak, but his voice cracked, collapsing under the weight of tears he had likely held for years. Marissa listened quietly as he whispered an apology, not for the past, but for the men he had become. He confessed that his hands had begun trembling months ago, a result of stress, poor living conditions, and untreated health issues. He had lost his job, lost his home, and today he had come to the restaurant because someone had gifted him a small voucher. He had been too embarrassed to order anything beyond a glass of water. For a long moment, Marissa said nothing. Not because she lacked words, but because forgiveness, true forgiveness, takes time to surface. And yet, she felt something gentle settle inside her. She realized that helping Adrian didn't mean erasing what he had done. It didn't mean she wanted him back. It simply meant she refused to let bitterness dictate her humanity. She returned to her boys, kissed the top of their heads, and told them she wanted them to meet someone important. They walked with her back to Adrian's table, where she introduced them to their father. Rowan and Kit stared in awe, not scared or hesitant, just curious. Adrian froze, tears spilling freely, overwhelmed by their presence. The twins each reached out a small hand, simple gestures of acceptance that felt like mercy. Marissa invited Adrian to join them for lunch. And there, under the glow of afternoon sunlight, they sat, 4 people sharing a meal neither anger nor regret could interrupt. She ordered him warm food, watched him eat slowly, and realized how life had shaped all of them in ways none could have predicted. She didn't promise reconciliation, nor did she make excuses for the past. But she offered him something far more powerful: dignity, hope, and a chance to stand again. As they finished their meal, Marissa felt her heart settle. She understood that kindness didn't weaken her. It proved she had grown stronger than the pain that once broke her. Her boys laughed with Adrian, and for the first time in years, she saw his old gentle smile flicker back to life. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that celebrate healing, compassion, and second chances. Before we end, tell us in the comments, would you have done what Marissa did? And as the afternoon faded into warm daylight, Marissa realized something profound. Sometimes the most unbelievable act is simply choosing kindness when the world expects bitterness.